I love words. I love how they can be used to describe things. I really enjoy the spaces that we don't have the right words for.
I enjoy performing, but I think the thing I'm understanding more and more is that I love to write music that can help tell stories. I feel like I've been given a gift to work on music. I love finding with rhythms and with harmonies and melodies, there are just a myriad number of ways to suggest something with the slightest note that is beyond any word that can describe what's happening. The way music can just bring something up through you that is indescribable.
Goal is always to communicate to the reader when I'm writing something what it feels like to be in that space where it's not happy but it's not sad. It's this sort of in-between place. It's the dichotomy between these two things that are happening that have beauty and ugliness in the eye of the beholder. I was not looking for a church community to be a part of. I had been to quite a few in the area and I wasn't feeling comfortable. And I was feeling really sad about it because I missed that part of my life a lot. The next Sunday I went. Unlike other churches, what struck me was that the people there seemed to want to meet me. Came over, said hello, seemed interested in who I was as a person. I continued going back.
I moved out here. I didn't attend church. I knew, we were together for a long time, and you weren't attending church, and then you started attending Redeemer. I don't know, the word agnostic probably is the best word that I could use to describe myself, but then I wonder, do I understand that the way people who really study it understand it? I guess just the mystery of it seemed kind of incomprehensible. But the more you went, I guess through you, I started to know some of the people who also went to the church, and I think that was, for me, that was the link. It wasn't really what was being talked about. It was getting to know folks at the church and just realizing, these are really solid people.
I think that's another thing that I really appreciate about that church is that you don't have to say, oh, how you doing? And the other person's like, oh, great. And you say great and you move on. If you're really not feeling great, you say, hey, I'm not feeling great. And it felt like a really safe space to say that at times. And I appreciate that as well.
We've talked about trauma, being on the increase, and when you're around people who have that kind of background or that kind of stuff going on, secondary trauma is a real thing, and the teacher tends to carry the heaviest burden of that because, on some psychological sense, you're trying to shield the rest of the kids from, the most difficult aspects of that.
Last year, I had a student that I worked with for a long time, about 6 years, and he'd moved on from our school. And I passed his house every day on the way into school, and I passed it this one morning, and there were fire trucks and police cars, and I got really scared and really worried. I didn't know what had happened. I'd been at school for a little while, and I was called to the principal's office, and I remember walking to the door, and I can see my hand reaching for the doorknob, and I don't want to turn it because I know that there's a now and there's an after this happens, and I didn't want the after this happens. But I turned the door knob, and my whole team was in there, and they were crying. And my student had committed suicide. And it was someone that I had lots of hope for. I was so certain that he would be someone who would come back and visit us and have all good tales to tell. One of the only ways I got through that day without breaking down in front of our students who didn't know, was I kept going to the bathroom and having a cry by myself and privately just asking God, like, help me through this day, help me to support my friends and my coworkers, and I'm feeling such a loss. I don't want to communicate this to my students. Just that moment, that day, is when I remember feeling like God was there the most, when I was kind of falling apart, and it was something that I had no control over. And I would say that that has stayed with me in a way that nothing else has. And it is something I think that God brings to mind a lot. Like, this might be the time that you have with this kid. You don't know. There's not a guarantee that you're going to get something down the road. And so I think that if there's something important that I need to say to a student, like that I'm proud of them, or that I care about them, or that I think that their kindness to another person has been amazing, I make sure to say it. And that's what helps to remind me that I need to say that right then.